The rain fell hard that night. Streets glistened with cold reflections of streetlights, and thunder rolled like a growl from the heavens. Somewhere in the alley behind an old bakery, a faint cry pierced the downpour. The kind of cry that breaks through even the noise of a storm. It wasn't human. It was desperate, trembling, a small animal fighting the dark. That's when he appeared, a tall man in a soaked jacket, flashlight trembling in his hand, calling softly, "It's okay. I hear you. Don't be scared." His name was Daniel. No one knew his full story then. To the locals, he was just that quiet man who lived near the edge of town, the one always feeding strays and talking to them like old friends. But that night, as he crouched beside a trembling, half-starved puppy, the truth was beginning to show. This man had dedicated years of his life to saving those the world had forgotten. The puppy was shaking, its fur matted and eyes wide with fear. Daniel pulled off his jacket and wrapped the little creature inside it, whispering, "You're safe now, little one. You made it." For most people, this would have been a rare act of kindness. For Daniel, it was just another night. Years earlier, Daniel had been someone else entirely, a construction supervisor, a man with a steady income, an apartment, and plans for a quiet future. But everything changed the day he found a stray dog on his way home from work. It had been hit by a car, lying on the side of the road, gasping for air. People walked past. Cars kept moving. But Daniel, he stopped. He lifted the injured dog in his arms and drove straight to the nearest vet. The vet looked at him and said, "She might not make it. She's in bad shape." Daniel sat there, soaked in sweat and dust, and whispered, "Do whatever it takes. I'll pay." The dog lived. He named her Hope. That moment became the start of everything. Hope followed him everywhere, to work, to the park, even on late-night walks when the city slept. But what Daniel didn't realize then was that Hope wasn't the only one being saved. She was saving him too. You see, Daniel had lost something before all this. Someone actually, his younger sister, Mia. She had been just 17 when a drunk driver took her life. He blamed himself for years because he was supposed to pick her up that night. But he didn't. He stayed late at work. Guilt had turned him quiet, distant. The world faded into gray. Until that stray dog forced her way into his life, a heartbeat demanding to be seen. That small act of saving something that couldn't speak brought light back into his eyes. After Hope, Daniel couldn't stop. Every day on his commute, he saw what others ignored. A limping cat near the bus stop, a wounded pigeon trapped under wires, a starving dog behind dumpsters. He began to see life where others saw inconvenience. He started driving different routes home, scanning alleys, listening for cries in the dark. It wasn't a hobby anymore. It was a mission. Soon his apartment turned into a shelter. Blankets lined the floor. Food bowls filled the corners. And Hope proudly guarded the newcomers. Neighbors called him crazy. Friends stopped visiting. But Daniel didn't care. Every rescued animal gave him purpose. Every saved life stitched another piece of his own heart back together. One evening, a little girl knocked on his door. She held a cardboard box shaking with movement. Inside was a kitten, eyes crusted shut. The girl sniffled, saying, "I found her near the schoolyard. My mom said she'd die, but you saved them, right?" Daniel smiled softly. "We'll give her a chance. That's all anyone needs." He named the kitten Star for the tiny white patch on her forehead. Star survived. And from that day, word spread. People began showing up with broken animals, with stories, with guilt. Some just wanted to help, bringing food or blankets. Others came to adopt. The man who once felt completely alone had unknowingly built a family. Not people, but hearts that refused to give up. But not every rescue ended well. And those were the nights that tested him the most. One winter morning, Daniel found a dog under a bridge, its body covered in scars and frost. He rushed it to the vet, but the doctor shook his head. "She held on too long. There's nothing we can do." Daniel sat in silence as the dog took her last breath. He whispered, "You're not alone anymore. You mattered." He buried her near the edge of a field, where the sun always touched first at dawn. Hope sat beside him, pressing her head against his knee. That night, Daniel didn't sleep. He sat on the porch, rain hitting the roof in a soft rhythm, thinking about how fragile everything was. And yet, how much beauty there still was in trying. In his worn-out notebook, he wrote something that would become his mantra. If I can't save them all, I'll save the ones I can. By the time the news caught wind of him, Daniel had already rescued over 200 animals, each with a story, each with a name. He didn't run an organization. There were no sponsors, no fancy websites. Just one man, a small shed full of supplies, and a heart that refused to give up. Reporters came. Cameras flashed. People wanted to call him a hero. But Daniel just smiled and said, "They saved me more than I saved them." Still, the more attention he got, the harder it became to keep up. Donations came in, but so did more animals. Calls flooded in from nearby towns. He was only one person, but he couldn't turn away. And one stormy night, everything changed again. He received a call. A mother dog trapped inside an old warehouse. Floodwaters rising fast. Daniel didn't hesitate. He grabbed his flashlight, his old truck keys, and whispered to Hope, "Stay here, girl. I'll be back soon." The rain pounded harder than ever as he drove into the night. The road ahead was slick, dark, and full of unknowns. But Daniel pressed on, because somewhere out there, another soul was waiting to be saved, to be continued. The storm was relentless, hammering the world into shades of gray. Daniel gripped the steering wheel tighter, the headlights cutting through sheets of rain that blurred everything ahead. The warehouse sat near the river, a place long abandoned, its windows shattered, its walls scarred by time. When he finally reached it, the water was already knee-deep, swirling with debris. He could hear the faint whimpering even before he stepped inside. "Hang on, I'm coming," he shouted against the roar of the storm. Inside, the darkness was broken only by flashes of lightning through the cracked roof. He sloshed through the rising water, the beam of his flashlight darting between rusted machinery and broken pallets. Then he saw them, a mother dog and her 3 puppies huddled on a stack of crates, their eyes wide with fear. The water was rising fast. Daniel waded forward, the current pulling at his legs. He slipped once, catching himself on a beam. The mother growled, weak but protective. "It's okay," he whispered, voice trembling. "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to take you home." He reached the crate and gently lifted one of the puppies, tucking it inside his jacket. The mother whined softly, watching him. He came back for the next, and the next, until only she remained. The water was chest-high now. Daniel reached out his hand. "Come on, girl. Don't give up on me." The dog hesitated, then stepped forward. He scooped her into his arms and turned back toward the exit, fighting the current that pushed harder with every second. Lightning cracked overhead, followed by a thunderclap that rattled the walls. He stumbled out of the warehouse just as part of the roof collapsed behind him. He didn't look back. He ran. By the time he got to the truck, he was soaked, shivering, and gasping for breath. The dogs huddled close together on the seat beside him, whimpering but alive. As he started the engine, Daniel let out a shaky laugh. "You did good, Mama. You did so good." It took hours to get home. Roads were flooded, trees blocked the way, but somehow he made it. When he opened the door, Hope was waiting. She barked once, then sniffed the newcomers, tail wagging as if she understood everything. Daniel spent the night drying them off by the heater, wrapping them in towels, whispering reassurances like prayers. The mother dog lay her head on his lap, eyes heavy with exhaustion and trust. For Daniel, that trust meant everything. When morning came, the storm had passed. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, soft and golden. The little family slept peacefully. For a moment, Daniel just watched them, the rise and fall of their tiny chests, the way Hope rested close as if guarding them. And in that stillness, something shifted. Later that week, a local reporter visited again. She looked around his crowded home, blankets, food bowls, squeaky toys, and sleepy animals everywhere. "Daniel, why do you do this?" she asked gently. "You could have chosen an easier life." He smiled faintly. "Because they didn't choose to suffer. Someone has to see them, really see them." The reporter hesitated, then said, "Do you ever think about stopping?" Daniel looked out the window. Hope was playing in the yard with the puppies. The mother dog lay nearby, her coat clean and shining under the sunlight. "Maybe one day," he said quietly, "but not today. Not while there's still someone waiting out there for a chance." Months passed. The rescue dogs found homes through people who had seen Daniel's story online. Donations poured in, but Daniel used them not for comfort, only for care. More kennels, more food, more blankets. He never took credit. He always said, "They found me," not the other way around. But one day, Hope fell ill. It started small. She wasn't eating much, slept longer, walked slower. Daniel rushed her to the vet. The diagnosis was cruel. Her heart was failing. Age had caught up. He sat beside her in the clinic, tears silently falling. "You saved me. Hope, you showed me what love looks like. It's okay to rest now." Hope licked his hand one last time before closing her eyes. The next morning, Daniel buried her under the big oak behind his house, the same spot where sunlight always fell first at dawn. Just like before, he placed a small wooden sign that read, "Here lies Hope, the one who taught me how to save the world, one soul at a time." After that day, Daniel didn't rescue for a while. The silence in his home was heavy, the nights longer, but the animals still needed him. And slowly, he returned, not as the same man, but as someone softer, steadier. Someone who understood that love doesn't end when a heartbeat stops. It simply changes shape. One evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, a car pulled into his driveway. A young couple stepped out with a small box. Inside was a trembling puppy, eyes bright and frightened. "We heard about you," the woman said. "We didn't know who else to call." Daniel looked down at the tiny creature. It whimpered once, then pressed against his palm. He smiled a tired but genuine smile. "You did the right thing bringing her here," he said softly. "She's safe now." He took the puppy inside, where the warmth of the home and the quiet hum of life waited. As he placed her on a soft blanket, she curled up instantly, trusting him the way all the others had. Daniel sat beside her, looking at the wall where a small photo of Hope still hung, her eyes bright, her spirit alive in every rescued soul that followed. He whispered, half to himself, half to her memory, "We're still saving them. Hope, one soul at a time." Outside, the wind was gentle now. The world quieted, as if listening. The story of one man and his endless kindness continued, not in fame, not in fortune, but in every heartbeat he refused to give up on. And somewhere in the distance, under the same sky, another stray waited, not knowing yet that a man named Daniel would find him soon, because that's what he